Okay, so second attempt at this. First attempt, I don't think the audio recorded properly, so this is the initial data that we've got for the tech support that you've seen already for the homework. And the different processes that we have to go through, I'm going to sort of go through one by one. So the first thing I need to do is create two different columns. So I'm going to add two columns into the initial table. I'm going to call this one response time, and I'm going to call this one completion time. And the way we calculate the formulas for this is response time. We write the equal sign to say it's a formula. It's the picked time minus the created date. First of all, you'll see it's got 3 hashes there. It's not showing it really in the right format. So let's change the format to numbers from being a date time. And you can see it's a very, very small number, and that's because it's actually measured in the number of, I believe, years. It might be days, probably days actually. So I need to times this by 60 times 60 times 24 to get it from days into minutes, so seconds. And I'm going to put the two values that I'm minusing from one to the other in brackets as well. And you see it's now gone back to being a date time rather than a number because it's trying to be clever. The completion time is a similar formula, except instead of looking at the created date and picked date, you're this time looking at the completed date and created date, comparing the two. So they're the two formulas you can see in this bar here that you need for the different tables. So that's the bar for the first one, and that's the formula for the second one. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl+C on my keyboard, so I'm copying that entire column or entire data into columns. Now there will be some mistakes on these tables. There are some negative numbers and there's these value commands. For anything that's a mistake, you need to click on the whole row, click on the numbers of the row, right click and then delete that row. So you can go through all of these different figures, and wherever you find either a negative, a zero as well, we do get some zeros sometimes, or an error like you just saw there with value, you actually literally remove that line. So here's another one, so I'm going to select that one and I'm going to delete it, and I would repeat the process all the way through if I could. So how do we then turn this into a report with our numbers? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is rename this sheet at the bottom here. So rename sheet tech data, and I'm going to create a new sheet that I'm going to call my report. So this just allows me to put some of the values that I'm going to want to put in. So I'm going to want to put in the average response and the average completion data. Now the formula is in seconds in my table, so I'm going to start with creating a formula for each that then grabs the column in its entirety from the other table. So I'll type the words average, so that's how I spell it right, open the bracket, go to the tech data table, and I now go to my average response time column, all the way down to the bottom, highlight the whole lot, and you'll see it shows the whole table there, tech data K2 till K626. I close the bracket, hit enter, and it's now got my average number of seconds. I can do the same thing for completion, average, open brackets, go to the tech data, move right to the top, it's this column here, completion time, highlight the whole column, close the bracket, hit enter, and I've now got the average number of seconds to complete anything that has been opened as a ticket. If I want that in minutes, well, there's 60 seconds in a minute, so I take that number, divide by 60. If I wanted to get it into hours, obviously there are 60 minutes in an hour, so I take equals the minutes value and divide that by 60. And finally, if I want to get it into days, I take that figure in hours and divide that by 24, and that will give me the numbers in days. And because the way the formulas work in Excel, I can literally copy and paste those columns across, and I can have the average completion in minutes, hours and days instantly as well. So that's the first section. It's the easiest section to be able to work out the average response and completion times for the different information. The next set of information we're going to get requires us to use pivot tables, which are complicated. they're just ways really of grouping together and consolidating data from a table. So I'm going to now insert a pivot table, and the first one I'm going to find and try and work out is the number of tickets by each state. So I select state as being my row field, and then I drag ticket number into data fields, but I need to make sure it says the count up of how many tickets there are rather than the sum, because it's not adding together the values, it's adding together how many we've got. I hit OK, and it gives me this table, which actually shows me instantly a list of all the states and how many tickets are in each state. To make it easy for myself, I'm going to sort this table by the number of tickets. So now I can see the states with the least number of tickets being raised, which are those group here. There's 8 there that all have 1 ticket only. And I can see the maximum, which is California. So I can see the maximum as well. The next thing I'm going to need for my report is a list of all the different categories and how they end up with tickets. So I do the same sort of thing with a pivot table, but this time use categories. So category, ticket number, change it to count, hit OK, and that gives me a list of categories and how many ticket numbers are within each category. And again, if I want to, I can sort it by the count of ticket number, and I can then see which ones are most performing, which ones are least performing if necessary. Again, I can do the same thing to find out the subcategory as well. So let's do exactly the same thing again. This time grab the subcategory as my row field, double click on ticket number, turn it back to count, and boom, I have a list of the subcategories and how many tickets each subcategory takes. And again, I can sort the data by the ticket number and immediately get a list of how many tickets are raised about different conditions or problems. The last part is to try and work out a monthly trend. Now I'm going to cut this a bit shorter than I did in the session because everything is from the same year, 2021, so all I need to look at is the month component. So what I'm going to do is create a new column next to ticket numbers, and this is again another formula of grabbing which month each date is from. So I say equals month, open bracket, click the created date column that's on the same row, close the bracket, and it gives me a number, which month it is, i.e. 1 for January, and if I copy and paste this all the way to the end, as you see there, when it's a March, you can see there's a 3 there, which matches the table. I'm then going to highlight these 2 columns and insert a pivot table just for this current selection. And this time, I need the ticket number, again as a count, as my data field, but I'm going to use the month in the row fields. This then gives me a list of which month it is, January to December, and how many tickets were raised in each of those different months automatically. I'm going to highlight the data from row 2 to row 13 in the 2 columns, and this time I'm going to insert a chart. I choose an XY scatter chart because that's the type to use for this, and I get a list of all the points showing the different how many tickets were raised in each month. I click on one of these blue data points, right click insert trend line, and it will automatically create a linear trend line for me, showing that the trend is actually downward. As you would hope, the number of tickets being raised over the course of a year should be going down, but it obviously isn't going down by very much. It's still averaging around about, well, 50 odd over the course of the entire time. And that creates all the information you need to be able to actually build your report. Hopefully, anyway.